Jim Carrey enters my cinematic sphere probably around the same time that I saw North, back in '94. That was arguably the peak of his fame or his career. He had that 1-2 punch of the first Ace Ventura and the first Dumb and Dumber. I hate that I have to say the first Dumb and Dumber, but the first Dumb and Dumber came out in 1994, and my friends and I loved those movies. You know what I mean? And they were tailor-made for us to say things like, let's throw another shrimp on the Barbie, you know what I mean? And you did that ad nauseum. And like my Shatner for a while was his Shatner in the pool from Ace Ventura. Like, I don't have the power. I can't even roll my R like that anymore. Like, power. He earned it. But then he makes Ace Ventura 2 in '95, right? And I remember I liked it. Like, there are jokes in that movie that I think are better than the first. Like, when he lets the Slinky go down the stairs at the ashram and it misses by the last step.
Oh, man! Can you believe it? It was right there!
And he goes, oh, man, can you believe it? I can't do it anymore, I'm sorry, but... like one more time, that was hysterical to me. And the other joke, which probably gets forgotten, is when he's going through the woods or through the jungle towards the elephant guy's place, and the guy walking in front of him, he just keeps going like, flat tire,
Flat tire.
and the guy's like, I do believe this joke has run its course. Oh, and for some reason, g'day, disgusting rat, which he doesn't really say. But anyway, year after that, you have the Cable Guy, which is just like this. That was his faceplant. And the reason it was a faceplant, like I have friends who like that movie and they consider it part of his run in the '90s. But the reason it was a faceplant for him was because of the kind of studio drama behind that production. And what he thought it was going to be, and the kind of business he thought it was going to do, and how deluded he was about how successful that production was going to be. And he seemed to think that the average audience was going to follow him down this MK butterfly rabbit hole with Chip Douglas, and that it was essentially going to be Rear Window, or a Hitchcock thriller, and that he could pass it off like it was Ace Ventura installs cable. You know what I mean? And that's, of course, what the trailers pitched to us misleadingly back.
Cable Guy!
Let's do this.
Slip the cable guy $50. He'll give you all the movie channels for free.
You're offering me a bribe. What you have just done is illegal. And in this state, if convicted, you could be fined up to $5,000 or spend 6 months in a correctional facility.
Oh, please. No, that was dumb. I was just making conversation.
I'm just jerking your chin.
And I remember that I was, because this is, the internet was still 33.6 kilobaud back then, we still subscribed to magazines. And I remember I got Entertainment Weekly, and they had an article about how Jim accepted this $20 million payout for the Cable Guy. And everyone was kind of like, well, then it better fucking be worth it. It better be Ace Ventura squared. I better be laughing 20 million times as much, or however he got for those movies. And then it was a big bust. I don't hate it, but I was disappointed. I didn't laugh very much. It's not very funny. And it's interesting, the amount of talent behind that movie, and all of it's funny. I'm looking at my Ben Stiller Show DVDs right now. Like, that guy used to be funny. I can verify it. I have the DVDs right there. So Ben Stiller directed The Cable Guy. Judd Apatow, who I will only acknowledge, produced The Larry Sanders Show. And, he produced The Larry Sanders Show back then. Back in '96, right? So you got the producer of The Larry Sanders Show back then. And you've got the Ben Stiller from The Ben Stiller Show back then. You've got Jack Black as the sidekick back then. And Matthew Broderick playing Felix Unger. Right? I mean, you got the Odd Couple. It's like, that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the Odd Couple with Matthew Broderick as Felix Unger and Jim Carrey as Oscar. Like, that's kind of how they pitched it in the marketing. And then it's like...
I just want to hang out. No big deal.
It's like this MK nightmare. And you're like, Jim, people don't dig this Chip Douglas shtick, okay? It's not like charming or sweet. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then so, of course, this is where he veers from gentle to mental. This is where the polar shift takes place. And it's very hard to follow his career after that if you started in 94. If you started before he, you know, compartmentalized Ace Ventura and brought out whoever, then it's hard to follow whoever after the person you liked was compartmentalized. And yeah, you know, the protected brand or whatever fucking, you know, MK rhetoric he uses. And if you're wondering why I troll him, he's one of my biggest disappointments in Hollywood. The more you find out about him and his personal character, the more you're like, fuck you that I talked you up, fuck you that I told people that you made me laugh and made me happy, when I don't even think that's what you ever wanted. You're always out there saying that whenever you're not on a movie set. You're like, I would just pull a face to make people happy. But then you want 20 million to do it. You know, sometimes. Sometimes you want Satan figures to do movies and pull a face and make people laugh. And sometimes you're Mr. We're just a field of energy and I like to make people smile in it. You know, sometimes you're like that. And then he's like, whatever. And they wonder why I make these fucking videos that just say like, fuck you. For being such a colossal disappointment and fraud. And I'm not kidding.